So what happened yesterday? Coinbase hacker attack? Whoa. And today, on the 4th anniversary of this channel, I have to talk about it. Everything in this video is about the Coinbase hack and how the CEO played the reverse card. Hey, and welcome to Crypto Owl. You heard it? 4 years of Crypto Owl. This success wouldn't have been possible without you. Go check out social media. There might be a little giveaway if it's already out, depending on when this video is released. Yeah, Coinbase. There was a major hacker attack yesterday, or at least an extortion attempt. Specifically, there was a hack at Coinbase. We'll take a look in a moment at exactly what was stolen. And they demanded $20 million in Bitcoin as ransom so they wouldn't sell the data. That's what the whole thing looks like. Coinbase has commented on it. And the interesting thing about all of this is that they themselves said it only affects less than 1% of all Coinbase customers. That doesn't necessarily mean that just because you have a Coinbase account, you're affected by this data leak. But it could be. We'll have a few examples of that in a moment. So what happened as a result? In fact, they could have simply paid the $20 million fine. $20 million for Coinbase, I would say, isn't really that much. They chose a different path because they didn't want to bow to a hacker, since that would obviously be tempting for other hackers to say, hey, let's hack into Coinbase. We can get ransom money pretty easily there. No, they chose the other way. They played the reverse card from Uno, the direction-changing card, and decided to set up a reward fund of $20 million for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the criminal responsible for this attack. They set one up and they have 10 million customers. Just think about that. For less than 1% or around 1% of them, we're talking about 1 million customers, which is still a very, very large number. That's something that really needs to be emphasized. We're talking about 1 million customers here. Yes, they completely turned the situation around, and the CEO also commented on it. So she gave an interview, made a statement about it. I also posted it yesterday in our Telegram group. So feel free to join there if you don't want to miss anything. But I didn't comment on it any further yesterday because I was busy with another stream. And yes, as you can see, they played the reverse card, so they turned the whole thing around. What did they gain from it? What these hackers, or rather this hacker group, obtained were names, addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses. Then they got the last 4 digits of the social security number. They also got a bank account number and the bank identification number. That's basically the BIC and the IBAN, you could say. Government ID, meaning either the driver's license or the ID card, depending on what you had on file. Account data, balance, snapshot, transaction history. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. I found something funny about it, so we'll wrap up with that so the video doesn't end on too sad a note. Then they also got corporate data, including documents, training material, and so on. All of these are things depending on what you provided during registration, for example, invoices or things you had to submit in addition for that extra KYC process they carried out or required for a while. If you have a coin hashtag, you're probably feeling anxious right now, like many others, and you're wondering, is this the right move to just delete my data or my account since I don't really have anything left on CoinMall or I'm not active there anymore? To be honest, the hackers already have your data anyway. So it's a tough situation. On the one hand, you may have lost your data to hackers, and now you might be getting calls, emails, push notifications, or even worse. I have a few examples of what could happen. We'll get to that in a moment, but we also have to acknowledge that this is just one of many hacker attacks. Let's think back to that major hack at Ledger a few years ago. That was before 2016. I think it was 2016, maybe 2015. There was a major hack at Ledger, the world's largest hardware wallet manufacturer. A lot of customer data was leaked, and afterwards, certain cryptocurrencies bought this data and contacted a lot of people. For example, I know the cryptocurrency, let me think for a second, Pulse Chain. What did he do before? What he did before, that is, this cryptocurrency was promoted via emails using the data from the Ledger hack. You really have to think about that. How do people know this so precisely? There are people who say very clearly, I'm a pure Bitcoiner. Back then, since there weren't many options, I had a ledger. I have nothing to do with altcoins. So just as an example, not me in this case, but nothing to do with altcoins. Suddenly, after this hack at Ledger, I start getting emails from altcoins and get advertised to buy altcoins. I've heard this from many people, and you even know one of them. They've mentioned it several times on our live stream. That's why it's really crazy what happened again. But we also have to ask, do you have a ledger at home too? Do you use it? Yeah, it's simply the number one hardware wallet manufacturer. By now, there's a lot of competition, simple hardware wallets like Tangem and so on, but still, people are still using Ledger. Then came the next scandal surrounding Ledger, but even so, people are probably still using it. Many people who are used to Ledger just keep using it because they say, I don't care at all what's going on, as long as I can store my cryptocurrency safely on the device. And it's similar here with Coinbase. Right now, it might be a scandal, people saying, yeah, customer data has been lost. And of course, it's not great to know that you might be one of that 1% whose data is gone and now hackers can do things with it. But to be honest, probably in a year or two, no one will be talking about it anymore. People will just vaguely remember in the background that something once happened at Coinmates, but it won't be a big deal anymore. Now you have to decide for yourself, am I even still active on Coinmates? Do I still need this account? Or should I just leave it as it is and hope that I'm not one of that 1%? That's why it's difficult to make a decision about how to proceed here. But as I said, if you are one of that 1%, the hackers already have your data anyway. Of course, this hacker attack also had consequences. First, Coinbase Global, that is the stock coin, was added to the S&P 500, which led to this green candle here, and now this hacker attack. And naturally, we're also seeing a downward movement in the stock. We've seen that very clearly here. So this also has consequences for the company's shareholders, not just for the people who may have lost their customer data. Then, of course, there are people who might also be advisors. For example, there are crypto advisors who might work with partners or recommend crypto exchanges. For example, I'm always asked, which crypto exchange do you recommend if you want to trade very easily? I always say Bitpanda and Coinbase are the simplest cryptocurrency exchanges. You do have high fees, but in return, you get simplicity. So if you have no idea at all, then probably one of those two. And it was the same here. This person says, I have clients in the crypto sector, and I've also received messages about this. Now, it's only 1% of the Coinbase data, but am I affected? What do they know about me now? I'm scared. And what do I have to be afraid of now? And I think there are a lot of people who are now also afraid and don't know how this is all going to continue. Therefore, your data is probably gone if you are one of that 1%. What can happen now? That is, of course, the big question. There are examples here, and there are quite a few examples. In fact, there were text messages that looked like this. And if we look up here from the time and the data, there were text messages, even some voice messages from random numbers. May 15th, May 14th at night, and again here, May 12th, where I'm thinking May 12th, the hacker attack had just happened. So whether the customer data was already being switched before that. In any case, here are already the first signs that people are getting text messages with voice messages and a ton of calls. Just take a look at this. Wow, so many calls. And a lot of people are saying this is connected to the hacker attack. At the same time, there are also messages that supposedly come from Cologne itself. And on Telegram to recover your funds. You are suddenly supposed to get a message on Telegram. Tricky. So be careful with that as well. Just so you have some examples of what's going on. Calls from all sorts of strange numbers, and your phone might even say likely spam, meaning probably spam. In that case, you definitely shouldn't answer. A lot of people always say that if I answer such numbers, it's very likely that money will be taken from me, because money is being deducted in the background. Not necessarily. What the hackers actually want is to see if this number is active. So you don't even have to worry that the moment you pick up, you'll immediately lose money. No, but the hackers will then know, oh, the number is active. Or they can probably tell just by the ringing. But depending on how you answer, they can probably tell, oh, that's a female person, that's a male person. Is that the person whose ID we have or whose name, address, and phone number we have in this case? Is that the person, or has the number already been assigned to someone else? And in this way, they might be able to sell your data better based on all this information. It sounds so wrong. Sell it better to people who might want to advertise to you. And then they say, look, here's someone who's 22, interested in cryptocurrency. Do you want his data? Just as an example. It's not nice to hear, but unfortunately, that's how it is. And this here is the really crazy part. And to be honest, I still can't quite believe it 100%. But he claims that the whole thing happened through Coinbase. Apparently, Coinbase supposedly tried to buy $1,499.99 worth of Bitcoin through his account. Supposedly, all of this happened via PayPal. Here is the invoice for it. Now, I'm always very cautious with things like this, whether a PayPal invoice was really just created, but depending on the situation, if you have PayPal linked and they have your email address, of course they can send you an invoice. Whether you pay it or file an objection is up to you. So you'll very likely get out of it if you file an objection and say, something was hacked at Comex. That's probably related to this. You'll get out of it, don't panic. But of course, it's not great that you first have to go and write something, take care of it yourself. It's exhausting, but it can happen. So far, from everything I've read, this mainly affects customers from the North American region. Canadians, Mexicans, but mainly US customers are the ones commenting on this issue, saying they're getting messages or calls or receiving these outrageous PayPal invoices. So far, nothing major has become known, at least nothing has been posted publicly about anything happening in the European region. So maybe we've just been lucky. For everyone who's based in Europe or directly in Germany, maybe not much has been stolen from this region at all. So keep your fingers crossed for me, but it's a really unsettling feeling when suddenly some hackers have your driver's license, ID card, address, and phone number. All things they could potentially use to cause trouble. So if you get any strange emails soon, I always recommend to everyone, don't just look at the email itself, check the sender. It's really, really important. How often do I get things like your Disney Plus subscription cannot be paid? I don't even have a Disney Plus subscription. Please provide your billing address, and then you look at the sender at the top and it says something like 3785677@gmail.de. And you think to yourself, that can't be right. That has nothing to do with Disney Plus in this case, especially since I don't even have a subscription running. So it's crazy, but that's basically what I get, I'd say, about once a week. Yeah, I have no idea how something like that even happens, whether Disney Plus has ever lost data, but it's really wild. And the hackers know you're possibly invested because they also have a snapshot of all your balloons. And if the hackers then go and see your portfolio and maybe you don't actually have much in there, then maybe they'll react like this. And I want to end on a positive note, maybe even with a little joke, so we can at least have a bit of a laugh, even though the situation is already bad enough. So let's wrap things up with that. When the hackers look at your portfolio, they might react like this. With that in mind, maybe just a little chuckle at the end. I hope you're not too shocked. I hope that none of us in Europe are seriously affected. If you are affected and don't want to say so publicly, I can understand that. But if there was someone in Germany or in the DACH region or in Europe in general, let me know in the comments. That way we'll know if it actually hit our region after all. With that, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next video.